here we are on lucky July the 13th in the year of our Lord 2025. Got some good information for you and some statistics on my Rumble channel that I want to share with you. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and click Murtech on Rumble. Come over here to my Rumble channel. This is the video that you're watching right now, my live stream. Let's episode 1622. Let's get into this. Okay, and pause that. Let me go ahead and close out the chat and slide down here and open the description box by clicking this Show More. And if we click that, it'll expand out the description box. Okay, we have information from Andrew Klavan, USA Watchdog, Vince Dow, and Wendy Bell Radio. Okay, but before we get into that, I do have some shout outs to give. Looks like Opie's Heart just started following my channel. Raymond Luke 8 just started following my channel. And Mathis Stone just started following my channel. So thank you very much for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in and I hope you enjoy the content. All right, we've got a lot of comments here. Comment from Debbie BS on my episode 1621. Actually, Debbie BS reposted my episode 1621. So thank you very much, Debbie BS. She posted that, I'm sure, on her actual channel. Debbie BS gave me a comment on my my episode 1621. Blue Peahen commented on my Nothing to See Here video, and so did Debbie BS. Debbie BS also commented on my The Future of AI video that I dropped. Okay, Raymond Luke 8 and Debbie BS commented on my extra 406A. Debbie BS commented on my extra 406B and 407A, 407B, 407C, and 407D. So thank you, Debbie BS and Raymond and Blue Peahen for your comments and all your input. I truly appreciate your support. Okay, let me go ahead and click the thumbs up button and give this a thumbs up. And when I talked about Debbie BS reposting, right here is a repost. If you have a Rumble account, you can click this and you can put a comment here if you like and repost this on your channel. Okay, so that way you could get maybe some followers on your channel. Who knows? But that's one way to maybe draw attention to your channel and maybe even produce some of your own videos. All right. Well, let's get into this. Andrew Klavan, The Epstein Blunder, episode 1238. I'm going to go ahead and play his monologue. Then I'm going to go ahead and jump it up to like the 8-minute and 24-second mark. So let's go ahead and get into this. Here we go.
Some political observers are saying that New York Democrat mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani is a sleazy, two-faced peddler of political snake oil whose communist agenda would only demonstrate yet one more wearisome time the capability of Marxism to reduce a city striving toward prosperity and peace to a rubble-strewn ruin of homelessness, crime, and poverty in order to create an urban hellscape that would express through the human misery of others a leftist like Mamdani's virulent hatred of God, America, the Jews, humanity, and himself, even while he continues to disguise that hatred behind a smile of chilling insincerity and the sort of vague Obama-like bromides of deceptive political oration that anyone but an idiot or a Democrat would recognize instantaneously as the mesmeric lies of a man whose heart has been poisoned by a diabolical socialist ideology that transforms every natural human instinct toward goodness into a bubbling black tar of destructive evil. Other political observers are saying other things like, what's on TV tonight? Or I wonder if it's too late to get a reservation for dinner, because watching Mamdani's rise to frontrunner in the New York mayoral race is so disturbing, they'd rather think about practically anything else. Left-leaning New York politicians are uncertain whether or not they should endorse Mamdani and have been nervously tracking the opinions of a mob of naked, blood-drenched maniacs who at first seemed to be the extras who played the rage zombies in 28 years later, but instead turned out to be the Democrat base. As New York Senator and career corruptocrat Chuck Schumer said, quote, I am 100% in favor of Zoran Mamdani if that shrieking mob of naked, blood-drenched zombies supports him. But if they would prefer to rampage down Fifth Avenue, killing and devouring anyone who gets in their way, then I'm in favor of that instead. In other words, a lifetime of ideological pandering has left me a hollow doppelganger of the man God created me to be, and I'll basically do anything for just one more term in power before delivering the husk of what was once a human being into the hands of the satanic overlord who owns the flaming ashes of my former soul. Unquote. On the other hand, shapely but evil New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has endorsed Mamdani enthusiastically, telling her supporters, quote, men have sleepwalked into self-destruction while gazing at a hot rack like mine through all of human history. I don't see why this mayor election should be any different, unquote. Some journalists have temporarily roused themselves from the sleep of reason that produces monsters to report on some of Mamdani's little peccadillos, like the fact that he's a Jew-hating, Islamist-appeasing, anti-American dirtbag who once gave the finger to a statue of Christopher Columbus and wants to defund the police, seize the means of production, transform the state of Israel into a rerun of the Holocaust, and reduce New York to a socialist slave city on the order of 1970s Detroit. But Mamdani answered those accusations in a charming speech to a vast collection of matrix-like pods that contained residents of Park Slope, Brooklyn, who were happily living in a dream that the world was like it is in the New York Times, while their brains were being drained of electricity in order to power the Democrat machine. Mamdani said, quote, sure, I've got some ideas that would make New York City look like it had been trampled by a Stalinist Godzilla. But you know, Ronald Reagan used to say that a person who agrees with you 80% of the time is a friend and an ally. And in the same way, a person who agrees with me 80% of the time will soon be lying in the gutter in a pool of his own vomit, wishing he'd paid closer attention to that other 20%. Unquote. The Park Slope residents greeted this speech with thunderous applause and then went back to dodging bullets in slow motion because they were dreaming they were in a New York Times editorial that said, yes, Mamdani's crime-infested New York would be riddled with gunfire, but don't worry, just take this blue pill and you'll be able to dodge the bullets in slow motion. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
All righty, so there you have it, folks. That's how it goes, I guess. Okay, he's going into some advertisements here and some more behind the scenes stuff. So let's get up here to the. Here we go. How I became so Socratic. So okay.
Chapter 1, How I Became Socrates.
Socrates.
Now, because you are my audience, and I know you're just steeped in the classics and incredibly well read, and not like the rest of the Daily Wire ones. I know you must all know, or at least should know, how Socrates discovered, to his surprise, that he was the wisest man in all of Athens. With the Bible, this is, I think, one of the two foundational stories of Western civilization. And it's just very briefly, I'll recount it for you. If there's just somebody who's wandered on from the Michael Knowles show who doesn't know anything, the oracle at Delphi said that Socrates was the wisest man in Athens, and Socrates said, "How can that be when I don't know anything? I don't know anything. I'm not sure of anything. I know that I don't know nothing. I know nothing, but I don't know anything." And he found out by going around interviewing all the other people in Athens, he found out that nobody knew anything, but everyone else thought they knew something. So he was the wisest man in Athens because he alone knew that he knew nothing. That's the way I feel when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein. I seem to be the only person in America who does not know what the truth is. And that makes me uniquely wise because every other person I listen to has got it just absolutely nailed. They have got this figured out right down to the ground. It's the CIA, it's the Jews, everything's the Jews. It's a blackmail scheme. It's nothing. It's just a conspiracy theory. They all know how, and I keep looking at this and thinking, how the hell do you know that? why are you so sure of that? Why are you so completely, you've got it all figured out? I wish I had their sources, except I think that they can only hear the voice in their own heads. I can't hear the voices in their heads. But here is one thing that, though I know nothing about what has happened in the Epstein story, I do know something about this. I do know this. This is one of the most successful presidencies I have ever seen. We celebrated it last week in the July 4th show. It's amazing. The closing the border, deporting the illegals, passing the one big beautiful bill, which happened after I recorded last week's show, opposing child mutilation and racist DEI, and stopping men from stealing women's sports trophies. What a bunch of bullies they are. Defunding Planned Parenthood in the one big beautiful bill that's been held up by the court, but I'm sure that will actually win through. That's just one of those rogue courts things. Cutting government fraud, through Doge and other methods, winning a bunch of Supreme Court cases. He's still winning cases, putting communist Ivy League universities on notice, so they have to change some of the policies that have produced a generation of little Hitlers, turned our elites into these little Hitlers who don't know anything but except for the fact that the Jews must die and Hamas must live. That's all they know. Obviously bombing Iran's nuclear facilities, negotiating peace deals here and there, and even in the Congo, maybe in Gaza, strengthening our military, starting to rejigger trade and manufacturing so we can stand up to China, on and on and on. And this is 6 months. This is 6 months into his presidency. This guy is on track to be a great president. He is on track to get his face on one of the dollar bills, right? He is a great president. And I think he's made a mistake. And we all make mistakes. This is not to detract from him. It doesn't mean I suddenly hate him. It doesn't mean I think he's betrayed America or anything like this. But I think he is not seeing this. He usually has one of the great cultural eyes in the country, but I'm not sure he's understanding that this is what a cultural error it is, what happened with Jeffrey Epstein, which I'll talk about in a second, and recently, which I'm sure you've heard about, but I'll just go through it. But I'm just going to say this in the event anyone in the White House is listening. I think there are a few people who are listening, and anybody else who knows anybody, I think they should reconsider the way they are handling this. So at the end of the July 4th weekend, I think it was Sunday, right? So it's like the time when you bury things. That is when you want to release information that you don't want anybody to know. It's on Friday afternoon, or it's, at the end of a holiday weekend. A memo is leaked to Axios, which is a kind of a center-left, site. It's not a bad site. It's not a virulently anti-Trump site, but it's not a right-wing site at all. The Justice Department and the FBI release a memo saying they have concluded they have no evidence that convicted sex offender and disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed powerful figures or kept a client list or was murdered. And the investigation's over, and that's all we're going to know, and it's done. So aside from the fact that this is dumped in the middle of nowhere, it comes after many statements from people we know and love, and we respect them. And again, just like with Trump, just because we feel that they're making a cultural error doesn't mean we think that they are suddenly, their entire personalities have changed. So Attorney General Pam Bondi, former prosecutor. She defended Trump during his impeachment. We have no reason to feel that she's suddenly become a crafty, horrible human being. That's not what's happening. But when we look back at the past, we hear her saying, not the distant past, even while she was Attorney General, all of this stuff is going to come out. Here she is, just a brief clip of her with John Roberts on Fox as a cut two.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we'll check back with you.
And then we remember that she made a big show of releasing these binders, invited all the press and even the new press out there. And in the binders, was stuff that we had all seen before, especially the Wall Street Journal had released basically the names in his black book, and that doesn't mean anything. The guy was a socialite who moved among powerful people, and just because you were in his black book doesn't mean you did anything wrong. We all know that. We all understand that. So all of that information come out. It was embarrassing. It was humiliating to everybody who had thought this, oh, look, we have taken back the Department of Justice and the corruption is over. Kash Patel, also, I think, a good man, a guy we can trust. People don't just suddenly change character. This is the guy who wrote the Devin Nunes memo. A lot of you might not remember that. It was a huge deal that exploded the Russian collusion hoax. The media went absolutely nuts and beat up Nunes, saying, oh, this is all nonsense. He's just working for Trump and all this stuff. But he was absolutely right. And that was written by Kash Patel. And it was just the media was lying about the Russian collusion, and they hated being exposed. And here's something that he said before. This is before he took over the FBI, before he became the head of the FBI. He was talking to Benny Johnson. This is cut 3.
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list. You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list? And why is it that the Senate, and good for Senator Blackburn to try to get it out, but then Dick Durbin comes over the top and says, no, we're not going to release the names. I don't care about the list itself, but if you release the names, right? What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list?
So this is 2 years ago. Now suddenly, no, nothing there, nothing to see. And again, released in the dead of night, basically. Dan Bongino, another guy, I've listened to him a million times, always liked his show. He was NYPD, he was Secret Service. He built a podcast empire. He's making maybe $20 million a year, and he put that aside in order to go into service in the FBI. You can see on his face how weary he is, how hard he's working, and they're really doing great stuff over there. He doesn't change his character, but this is what he was saying on his show before he became the deputy director of the FBI. This is cut 4.
There are a lot of people who are knee deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there that Epstein may have had video and audio of people out there doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And you should be asking yourself the question, how is it that all these people, the CIA director, the Obama fixer, Bill Clinton, all intersected paths with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein isn't with us anymore, and nobody seems to want to talk about it.
Okay, that's Dan before, and now this memo coming out, leaked in the middle of the night. And then Trump is asked about it. He does those public cabinet meetings where everybody sort of sits around and he kind of, ad libs and talks. They go on for hours and all this, but sometimes a lot of good news comes out of it, and certainly good video comes out of it. And a reporter asked Pam Bondi about this, and she was about to answer, and he interrupted her. This is cut 5.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration.
So I'm convinced all of these people are good people who want to do the right thing. I truly am. And, if you're listening to Ben Shapiro, and you should be, he's saying this is a nothing burger, and now I'm completely convinced there's nothing there. And even if there was there, it's not important. If the facts change, I'll change my mind. But this is not, I disagree with them. I think that this is a cultural error of large proportions. And I'm going to tell you why. Look, another thing about Trump, by the way, whatever you think of Trump, like him, love him, hate him, whatever you think of him, I don't think he's being controlled by anyone. He's not even being controlled by himself. He can't even control himself. The words just come pouring out of his mouth all the time. And now he's going to tell a reporter, after all this buildup from Dan, from Kash, from Pam, all this buildup, all these years we've gotten, it's suddenly a desecration for someone to ask, how did this just vanish? How did it vanish over the July 4th weekend in the middle of nowhere? Because here's the thing. It may be that this memo that was released is the absolute truth. It may be there were no rapes on Epstein Island. Maybe there was no blackmail. Maybe it was just there were no intelligence agencies involved. It was just Epstein abusing young people. He obviously had some kind of thing for child porn, and he was just a sick, terrible man. And it was just really him and other people. He sucked other people into his orbit, but maybe they didn't do anything. Or if they did do anything we don't know about, maybe it's the truth. But it doesn't sound like the truth. This is not what the truth sounds like. We all know after Pam and Cash and Dan, they've been telling us about this for years, telling us that this information was there and was being hidden. And then suddenly a memo is leaked to a center-left outfit at the end of a holiday weekend, which is where information goes to die. And then that's followed by the president telling a reporter he should be ashamed for even asking about it. That is not what the truth sounds like. We all know this. And again, I love this administration. I think they're doing wonderful work, but let's face it, that's not what the truth sounds like. And we all know it. Okay. And it makes everything else sound suspect. That's one of the things about when you don't take care to not just tell the truth. You have to seem to tell the truth. You have to show that you're telling the truth and act like you're telling the truth. So Fox Digital got a scoop that former CIA chief John Brennan and former FBI chief James Comey are under investigation. Brennan for lying to Congress under oath that he wanted to keep the Steele document out of CIA intelligence. When we now know from a CIA document that John Ratcliffe released, we now know that he was the one insisting to put this Steele document, which was a complete fabrication, a piece of opposition info from Hillary Clinton that she had paid for, and it was complete nonsense. And now he's under investigation, and we think like, well, is that being released now to distract us? Because this is the kind of thing that right-wing conspiracy theorists like, and now we'll be distracted thinking, they're going to go after John Brennan. We're going to forget about Epstein. That I think, it makes everything sound like it's being released. Trump put out a Truth Social post saying, look at the great work the FBI is now doing under Kash Patel. And this is true because they've stopped terrorizing parents who are trying to keep porn out of their elementary schools and calling them terrorists and saying we're going to investigate them as potential terrorists. They've stopped investigating Catholics who want to hear the Latin Mass, this beautiful Latin Mass that has been around for thousands of years. They've stopped investigating them as potential right-wing extremists, and they're investigating criminals. And because of that, their numbers have gone up spectacularly. Absolutely. Release that document. All praise to the FBI, all praise to Kash for cleaning out the dirt in there and making sure they get back to business, the business they're supposed to be in. But are you releasing that now to distract us from this Jeffrey Epstein memo released in the dead of night after you told us that there was all this information there? The truth sounds different than this. I mean, I'm sure, even if you worship Trump, I'm sure you know that what I'm telling you right now is right. The truth sounds, what would the truth sound like? It would sound like officials and maybe Trump coming before good reporters, Brett Baer, somebody like that, who will ask tough questions and answering those questions. How'd you get it so wrong before you came on the FBI? Was it just that you were making stuff up before? Were you just guessing? It just seemed that way. And then you found out, oh my goodness, I was totally wrong. When did you know? What was it that gave it away? Why are there no men named? If women were raped, if were girls not being raped, was it only Epstein who was raping people? Because if girls were being raped, why didn't you show them photo arrays? Why didn't law enforcement show them photo arrays of perennial sex offenders like Bill Clinton and say, is that the guy who raped you, right? Why is Ghislaine Maxwell serving 20 years in prison? Could nobody offer her 10 years in prison in return for the names that she was serving on Epstein Island? Or was it all untrue and you got in there and lo and behold, you were shocked to discover that there was nothing there because you told us before what you thought. Tell us now what you think and why you changed your mind. That's what the truth sounds like. And
okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. Great information. Now, I've not really jumped on this Epstein bandwagon. I mean, it's not that I don't care. I would definitely like to see if there were people that were committing crimes. I want to see them punished. I want to see them held accountable. Is there a list? I mean, this information was held by the Biden corrupt Department of Justice, okay? This wouldn't be the first time that evidence just kind of evaporated. Remember when Hillary Clinton smashed everyone's Blackberries so they couldn't gain any information on what she was doing? Remember when Hillary Clinton had a server in her bathroom or wherever, and it was bitwashed so that no one could gain any information from that? You don't think that the FBI under this corrupt Biden administration would have gotten rid of any evidence that might have hurt some of their, I don't know, partners? If Donald Trump was on that list, I'm sure that information would have been released if they had a list. I don't know. Where did this list come from? I don't know. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. All right, let me go ahead and click on this Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from Andrew Klavan. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. Played a little bit more than I actually wanted to. But let's get back here and more information from USA Watchdog. So this might be a long video tonight because USA Watchdog Greg Hunter with Karen Kingston has got some information that I want you to listen to, and we'll talk about this as well. So let's see what they have to say. Let me get it back to the beginning. Here we go.
I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. Well, Donald Trump had one of the best weeks that he had in his, presidency in first term and second term, and then he had one of the worst weeks that he could have. I mean, here we find out that there's a big cover-up going on with the Epstein case. That's a monster problem for Trump. I mean, they're protecting child predators. Number one. Number two, we have Lee Zeldin coming out saying that, the EPA head saying that there's really no such thing as man-made climate change. Too stupid to be stupid. Again, that's the second thing, too stupid to be stupid. The first thing is that Epstein didn't kill himself. Too stupid to be stupid. Now we have a brand new mRNA shot with all the death and disability that's has happened. And now they're like, what? And they're having a new shot coming out. And these are lies that are such monstrous lies. Even the regular, what's called the normies, are starting to look at this going, wow, huh? You want us to believe this? So we're out now with a brand new mRNA Moderna shot. And, the recommendations to give this stuff, nobody should have it, but they want to make sure that they give it to children, infants, and babies and women to have these shots. To talk about the latest lie about these shots is Karen Kingston. Karen, you've gotten everything right, everything right, except for one thing. And a few months ago, you said that they would take these shots down in the first 100 days. And I thought maybe they'd do it earlier, but nope. We got a brand new shot. You got to be stunned. You have to be, because this is a bioweapon. You're the first person to say it that I know. This is a bioweapon, and they're out putting a brand new shot and giving approval for another mRNA CV19 bioweapon.
Yeah, Greg. I mean, stunned isn't really the word, because not only were the shots not pulled, but in April they fast-tracked Arcturus's self-amplifying mRNA. Then they approved the Moderna next generation mRNA, and then just yesterday, no, July 9th was the official date, but I think it was announced yesterday, they gave full FDA approval to Moderna's mRNA shots for babies as young as 6 months old, and children, and for as long as they're at high risk, right? So they have a comorbidity allegedly, but it's not shock. It's betrayal is what it is, because when we look at RFK Jr. and everything that he had said the 6 years prior to becoming Secretary of Health and Human Services, when he was running for president, then when he was partnering with Donald Trump and saying that he would support Donald Trump, what he was promising was to have accountability within Health and Human Services, to put safety first and safety of the children, and to really look at not only the mRNA shots, but also all vaccines, and get really good, solid data to evaluate their actual safety, or and safety, they just use the term safety because they don't want us to use the correct term, which is their danger profiles, right? So to actually get good data to look at the dangers of the shots, as well as any alleged benefits called efficacy. So yeah, it feels like a big betrayal.
What would you be telling people about this new round of shots? That say, oh, well, the FDA just approved a new round of shots, and I love RFK Jr. and Trump's my man. What would you tell them? Would you tell them, hell no, don't take these shots? Because when he was telling people to take these shots, Donald Trump, I was telling him, don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's getting bad advice. Well, this has got to be beyond bad advice now. Would you tell people to take these mRNA, this latest round of approved mRNA shots?
No, I mean, absolutely, no one should take any of the mRNA. It's been proven that it can only cause disease, disabilities, and death. That's actually in the original data that was filed with the FDA, the phase 3 trial data, whether you look at it for Moderna or Pfizer. In a minute, we can take a look at Moderna's package insert. I pulled it, and, absolutely no adult, child, or baby, infant should be getting these shots. I mean, the side effect profile is up to 98%, of children are suffering from side effects from the shots. And they're also not fully disclosing what the actual dangers are, what the disabilities were, what the death, because under the initial new drug applications, which outline how the trials are going to be conducted, reasons for withdrawal include death, right? So if a baby dies or a child dies, they just withdraw them from the study, and change the N value. So no one should be getting these shots. And my concern is with they're moving so fast, approving these very dangerous, toxic, and often lethal injections. And, I would be concerned coming this fall, especially with the doctors. The American Academy of Pediatrics is one of the 6 organizations that's suing RFK Jr. right now to make sure the COVID-19 mRNA shots are on the childhood schedule. I would be concerned about sending my child to school. I think they have something planned for this fall, where they're gonna change the laws of society again, and potentially do what the World Health Organization had envisioned in 2020, which was that, they wanted the global policy is that if your child is in school and there is all of a sudden a declaration that there is a pandemic, a viral outbreak in that area, your child can be forced vaccinated, right? And I'm just very concerned about how quickly they're moving. And again, I think it's interesting that the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Infectious Disease Society, this Maternal Fetal Society of 7,000 doctors, over 100,000 doctors are suing Secretary Kennedy and FDA Commissioner McCullough, and NIH Director Bhattacharya under the Administrative Procedure Act for their COVID-19 vaccine guidance policies under the CDC. So once again, this is where I was right though, Greg. Once again, remember, you can't sue HHS, you can't sue the FDA, you can't sue BioPharma because of the PrEP Act. Well, the doctors are now suing RFK Jr. and MAHA, if they wanted to, they could sue RFK Jr. and McCullough for the unlawful approval and the non-factual based and arbitrary and capricious approval of the COVID-19 mRNA shots for the ACIP guidance and whatnot. And so that's something that can absolutely happen, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think when people take action to protect us against this emerging mRNA technology, which is a technology that contains very advanced self-assembling nanotechnologies, there's just a lot of people are pressured, people are suicided, and so I don't think the lawsuits are necessarily going to go forward, but they could if if someone was organized enough, they could put pressure to pull the shots. But again, the mRNA technology is part of the bigger biodigital surveillance, right? To get the surveillance technology under the skin, as Elon Musk said, like, take it from here and put it in here and in here. And so I think that's what's going on with these rapid approvals. They're quickly trying to put in the biodigital surveillance system, and it's not going to be wearables. It's going to be under the skin.
Okay. All right. Now, I'm like 8 minutes into this 54-minute video, so there's tons more information in here, folks, and the link to this video is in the description box. I urge you to slide down there, scroll down there, and watch this video. Let me click on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Greg Hunter's USA Watchdog. I'm following the channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's get back here and see what else we have. More great information. But before we do, okay, I just want to give you a heads up here. I got an email from Rumble, all right, and it's talking about update creator program requirements starting this month. It means that they could promote my channel more. I might get a little income off of my channel. But right here is the requirements. Stream at least 30 hours via Rumble Studio. I'm using Rumble Studio. Stream at least 5 hours of Rumble Premium via Rumble Studio. Okay, I haven't started that. Accumulate at least 200 hours. Let me get over here so you can see this. Sorry. Stream at least 30 hours. Stream at least 5 hours on Rumble Premium. I haven't started doing that yet. Accumulate 200 hours viewed and accumulate at least 20 unique chatters. So I've looked over here at my stats today, and these are my stats. Okay, hours streamed, I'm at 15.4 out of 30 hours, and here we are the 13th month, not even half of the month. Okay, hours watched, I've gotten 101, looks like 1.93K hours, which is well over the 200 hours watched. Seems, I guess, slow. Total unique chatters, I've got 13 out of 20. So if you would like to do me a favor, just go ahead and chat something in the box. You know, a thumbs up, hi, how you doing, what's going on. Just give me a nice chat, and let me help get to that. I've got 13 chats now out of 20. It's the 13th. Hopefully I can get 7 more by the end of the month, and I'm going to start working on Rumble Premium exclusive hours streamed. So I just want to give you a heads up on that. That will help me out getting my information out to other people. I'll get a broader band if I accomplish these things for next month. Okay, so getting back here to the description box, let's scroll down here to Vince Dow. Sanctuary City abolishes itself in stunning vote for ICE as Democrat infighting ensues. Well, that sounds interesting. Let's go ahead and take a listen to that. Let me give you a full screen here. Here we go. Let me back it up here. Here we go. If it'll start playing.
That formal agreement with the feds on immigration enforcement.
Tonight, I had to vote in support of signing the 287G to give our chief of police the authority to assist, not to go out there and to raid. It's to go out there and to assist ICE.
The public comments stretched nearly 3 hours with an only in Key West musical serenade, residents in overflow rooms and packing the lobby.
We want to make sure that everyone can see that immigrants keep our island alive.
By making our police officers act as hitmen for ICE, the excellent community rapport we have had with our police vanishes.
So it would probably be a little bit premature for me to come out and tell you that the tide is turning within the Democrat Party. I mean, needless to say, they're still just as crazy. But it is worth noting here that as the party becomes more and more radical nationally on this issue of ICE and deportations, you have gotten renewed calls from prominent Democrats now saying they want to defund and abolish ICE. You have a few of very small handful of national Democrats, John Fetterman there being one example, saying, hold on, maybe we should pump the brakes on this a little bit. Maybe we should understand that our party does not win over the stance of open borders. And if you don't believe me, look at the 2024 election. It's really not all that hard. But even on the local level, we have a situation to report to you today out of course, Florida, because who knew it would always be this place, where a prominent sanctuary city, or they tried to be a sanctuary city in that state, basically had to fold within the span of days because, as it turns out, nobody's above the law, and some local random city council in Key West rapidly found out they're not above both Florida state law and federal law. And so positive developments to bring you here today, because we're so often talking about how some violent agitators are like burning down Los Angeles. So I figure, why not share for you a little bit of good news? We'll get into it. First though, folks, as usual, if you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you are new. Subscribing to the channel is not only the best way to support our videos, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And with that said, let's, of course, start with this minor story, nationally at least, over the 4th of July weekend, where the city commission, the city council, whatever, for Key West, Florida, voted here to 6-1. And by the way, Key West is a very blue area, needless to say. A lot of like weirdo old Democrat hippies basically live there, voted 6-1 to void its immigration enforcement with ICE agreement, its immigration agreement there. The city will no longer abide by the 287G program, which trains local law enforcement to interrogate and detain illegal aliens for potential deportation. Now, this is basically in response to the fact that Florida, when you look at them, and by the way, this is how every red state should be. There's no excuse why every Republican governor in this country is not following suit here. Is not just a non-sanctuary state. It is actively like an anti-sanctuary state, right? We have local law enforcement, Florida State Troopers, Highway Patrol in the state actually help to do their own basically ICE raids and work in full cooperation there with the government. And Key West was basically passing this memorandum that said that will no longer be the case. And newsflash here, I want you guys to take a wild guess. How long do you think this lasted? Not very long, but first, here's what happened.
Public comment in Key West City Hall lasted nearly 2 hours. It was a 6-1 vote among those commissioners. Well, the resolution makes the immigration enforcement agreement with Key West PD, quote, void and unenforceable. WLRN reports it was put in place by the department's police chief, but not approved by the commissioners. Local police officers now, it gives them training and the authority by Customs and Immigration to enforce those federal immigration laws. It's important to note here, every sheriff's office in Florida has now signed this agreement that gives them the authority now to act as ICE, enforcing those federal immigration laws.
It's, of course, pretty telling, first of all, how quickly we forget here, because it was just less than a year ago where the area of Key West for years under the Biden administration was being terrorized by the migrant crisis of basically people just trying to float on shore here, right back in 2024, as is covered here by Jen Wright. We were planning a vacation to the Florida Keys, but repeated migrant arrivals made us rethink our plans. These are the stories you saw repeatedly, right? At least 500 migrants arrive in the Florida Keys, which, newsflash here, is not a gigantic place, in what county sheriffs are describing as a, quote, crisis. Officials at Dry Tortugas National Park said they expected it to be closed for several days, right? Shutting down our national parks. Talk about the quality of life issues this is always impacting. Shutting down national parks back under Biden because of the space and resources needed to attend and deal with the migrants, as well as potential safety issues. But apparently this Democrat city council is perfectly keen on sending their area right back to that. But of course, in regards to this immigration enforcement memorandum agreement here, the question many were posing immediately was, is this even legal, right? As I said, Florida has state laws on the books that make it not just a non-sanctuary state, but an anti-sanctuary state. Yeah, newsflash, it's not legal. It never was legal. And this did not last very long.
And right now we can tell you the commission chambers, they are at capacity. There are 3 overflow rooms, and check this out. This is just the hallway. You can see these folks are watching the meeting right now on the monitors. The mayor earlier today, she made it clear that her no vote last week wasn't because she didn't want to cooperate with the feds. She says the agreement last week was not executed correctly. So now they are debating again, and public comment is happening right now.
Last week, a standing ovation here when commissioners voided the agreement known as 287G. That was signed by the police chief in March, but without commission input. Soon after, the Florida Attorney General sending this warning letter that Key West has to participate or else the commission faces civil and criminal penalties, including removal from office. He's in the back of this Border Patrol car. We've embedded with federal agents in other parts of the Keys, making targeted arrests of people here illegally with criminal records. Agents have also made immigration arrests in Key West. Some here selling T-shirts ahead of the meeting believe the letter of the law makes it optional to sign on, and they plan to speak out.
I don't have a problem upholding federal law, but I do have a problem with entering into a voluntary agreement that our city does not have to engage in. I want to make sure that everyone can see that immigrants keep our island alive.
They're the heart and soul of our community, and so we need to stand up and we need to fight for them.
So this meeting has been going on for about an hour. People to come because they have signed up to make public comment. Some have argued that this agreement may be mandatory for sheriff's offices, but not cities. So the question is, does Key West have to sign on? A lot of these folks say no. Some have actually argued that the city of Key West should do what South Miami is doing and suing to get clarity. Much more to come.
It's just
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. So the migrants keep their island alive. I'd like to know how that happens. When they come to this country, they don't have a job, rarely can speak the language. They don't have the money to spend for housing. How do migrants keep their island alive? I'd like some clarification on that. Okay, this does come from Vince Style. This video does. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here and wrap this up with some information from Wendy Bell. Here we go. Weekends with Wendy. Let's see what she has to say.
It about? It was
give me the kid. Find the kids.
So this person, the Jeffersonian Observer, writes on X to a post about what was it about? It was a response to Trump's truth. This person writes, "There's no question this rollout from the start, just promising Epstein deliverables, was awful. Everyone, including Cash, Dan, and Pam, teased mountains of evidence before they ever reviewed it. True. I have to ask an honest question. Is it possible that we've all believed conspiracy that wasn't true? What if most of what we thought we knew about Epstein was bullshit? It's possible that Cash and Dan believed it too until they saw what evidence they had. I have no idea. At this point, we're all so lost in the woods with monsters we've largely created in our own minds that I can't say for sure who's telling the truth and who's lying. I agree. Who is basing their conclusions on fact and who is basing their conclusions on things they saw on the internet? There is no question the PR campaign Cash, Dan, and Pam engaged in what they started destroyed even more trust that they were supposed to rebuild. If I see arrests for Russia, or FBI involvement on January 6th, I'd be willing to accept that the Epstein story was a snowball that grew over time, created larger by its movement, but only a tiny grain of truth and all of that in the center. If nothing happens about January 6th or Russia, then we will know. What other option do we have going forward? I kind of liked that. I mean, honestly. I kind of liked that.
Okay, now, I've raised the question numerous times before. Okay, if there's nothing to see here, in fact, I dropped a video on that, nothing to see here. But why was he arrested again? What was that? And here again, the evidence there may have been some evidence at some point in time, but it could be gone. I don't know. But we can't just linger on this, okay? I'm not saying it's okay. I mean, if some evidence was destroyed, it would be nice to find out who did that. I don't know. I mean, we know Hillary Clinton destroyed evidence. That was, back before 2016, so that's past the statute of limitations. She's going to walk on that. Nobody did anything about that. Seems like you can do anything in Washington, D.C. and get by with it, depending on whose ass you kiss. Some people don't get by with it because I guess they're not kissing asses enough or whatever. But I'm just baffled as to if there is some evidence. You would think they would leak just a little bit. You would think, okay, well, these four people were involved in it. If they don't have any evidence that will hold up in court, they can't make accusations, because that's what it would be, is just an accusation if they don't have proof, evidence, something that would stand up in court. I mean, we have to step back and this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy, we know they were involved, but we know by whatever, but we can't just do accusations or things that we've seen in the past, but for some reason we can't find that information anymore. Well, in my memory, I remember seeing this. Well, where is it? Okay, maybe your faulty memory. So the Department of Justice under Trump, now under Biden, they didn't give a shit. They just made shit up. Under Obama, they didn't give a shit. They just made stuff up. But I believe under Trump, they have to have the proof, the evidential proof, before they're going to move forward. If they don't have it, then okay, and that's basically what Pam Bondi said. We don't have anything. I don't think she said there wasn't any misdeeds. They don't have anything.
One, there's no answer, but it's more questions. I don't know. Should we be focused on that? I don't know. Meanwhile, what did they report? Some like $30 billion in excess revenue because of the tariffs and whatnot.
The court
what?
case, the doctor that was dropped for being a doctor and protecting his patients.
And by the way, this tax cut in this bill, Donald Trump is so quickly moving on taking your tax burden away and dumping it on foreign countries who've been screwing us over in trade for years. There's so many fantastic things going on. I'm not saying we don't pay attention to this, but I'm really curious still about Bongino. I think he bounces. I think he comes back to Rumble. I think he will start start his show again, rather. I think it will blow up for a point, to a degree, and then I don't know what he's going to do with it. I don't know. I think he did that to save his golden parachute. Huh?
Empire.
Yeah. And I get it. He has something. Kash Patel.
If he bounces, he's weak. I don't necessarily think that. I mean, let's fish it out. Let's say maybe Dan Bongino had these grand ideas that he'd come in and Dan Bongino is going to make a difference, because in Dan's world,
that's important.
Dan makes the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
He's the Donald Trump of the Dan Bongino media empire.
Empire, yes.
Yeah. So he gets in there, and now he's hamstrung. He's handcuffed. He can't do what he wants to do. And all these things I said that I would do, they're telling me I can't. Well, all these people that trusted me.
We live in this world. Our information that we communicate is like this. The justice government world is a snail's pace. So we on the outside are like, come on, what are you doing? Let's get answers. And yet all of the wheels, have you guys ever taken a job and you realize that the person who had the job before you sucked so royally that you have to unwind the garbage that they did before you can even make progress that you were hired to do? That's Donald Trump. He's finding all of the landmines. They're finding all of the landmines. Dan Bongino and Kash Patel would have had no freaking concept how jacked the FBI was. I mean, you get hints of it because you had whistleblowers. We got to see freaking Christopher Wray lie under oath. You get a feeling of how bad it is, but you have no freaking idea how bad it is until you have some access. And then you're like, oh, shit, I'm not going to be able to deliver the way I can chatter and make people watch me and get likes and views and blah, blah, blah. It's going to be a slow process. And people are going to be like, what are you doing with Epstein? And they're like, there's a lot more that you don't know. Donald Trump said that. And that tweet I just said hinted about that. I think that's more logical. But what do I know?
What do I know? I know that I don't know. That's the only thing that I can say that I definitively know, is that I don't know. I think Dan Bongino, maybe, he realizes he might be more valuable in the podcast realm. Sometimes you're more, it's like the people who people have asked me, why doesn't Wendy run for office? I said, because her voice isn't going to get drowned out in DC or Harrisburg. You are way more valuable in this space than you would be to be in the space of making difference in the laws, because that's not how it works. We've all seen it. People go with the great intentions of doing right and realize this is like quicksand.
Mm-hmm. You know what I will say about Bongino? What I will say about Bongino, I trust him. I have no reason to think that Dan Bongino would, like, as to Brock's point, if he went back to his Rumble show and people would pay attention, because it's sort of like how we would listen to Sean. So Sean Parnell, do you trust him implicitly? I do. Hell yeah, I do.
He hasn't lied to me.
And if Sean told us something like, we can't talk about that yet. Okay, I'll get it.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. And I don't know. Bongino might decide, okay, the crap's too deep. I don't know. I don't know what the situation is, just like Wendy. I don't know. But I would bet that if he does come back to his podcast, he won't be revealing any of this information because it will be deemed classified, whatever it is. He might be able to say, yeah, we didn't find any evidence. He may not be able to get to talk about, what evidence that there was, because it's not there anymore. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. And Wendy's right. We live in this world here. Everything's moving, especially at the pace that Donald Trump is moving with everything else. But when it comes to logistics, law, the justice system, she's right about that as well. It moves at a frickin' snail's pace. Unless, of course, they're trying to prosecute Donald Trump, then it moves pretty quick. But normally it does. Or unless, something is escalated to the Supreme Court when one of these rogue district judges gets a wild hair up their ass. All right, let me go ahead and click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Wendy Bell Radio, Weekends with Wendy. I did want to share that with you from Wendy. I share her information a lot. I think you folks that follow me kind of trust her information and trust her instincts. I do. And I totally agree with her on this. As I said, I'm following her channel and giving her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's get back here to the description box and let's check out the chats. Okay, Debbie BS is giving me a chat. And come on, folks, just give me a chat. I've got 37 people watching right now. You know, if you could just click in here and say howdy. Boom, there it is. Just say howdy, hi, how you doing? Have a nice day, whatever. That would be great. As is, I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I need to get 7 more distinct chats by the end of the month. Hopefully, let's get this done this next week, okay? Maybe the next day or even today. Okay, copy the chats down here in the description box, because when the live stream ends, there's no more chatting and the chats just kind of like disappear, okay? Let me do a quick refresh on this. Thank you, Ellen C. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay. Okay, I've had 97 people watch this already so far today. I've got 40 people watching right now and 6 thumbs up. So if I could get 40 or 34 of you to slide down here, just right here is what you're watching. If you scroll down and click this thumbs up button, that would be absolutely fantastic. And as I always mention, these 4 videos that I share with you come directly from the producer's channel. I've got the links to the videos, the links to the producer's channel. I'm not trying to take anything from anyone. I don't get any commissions or royalties for sharing this information out and promoting their channels. But I do get the satisfaction of putting together some interesting information, a good variety of information from a wide variety of producers to let you know what's going on in the world, you know, to give you the truth rather than the lies and propaganda of the mainstream media. Okay, so let me jump back over here to Murtech.com, and these 4 videos that I shared with you tonight are videos that I've posted on Murtech.com, and incidentally, the link to Murtech.com is in the description box as well. Here's the one from Andrew Klavan, and right down here, Wendy Bell, Vince Dow, USA Watchdog, okay? I have over 55 videos here that I post and update each day, in fact, multiple times a day, to keep you updated on the information that's out there. But unfortunately, in this hour podcast, I don't have time to share everything. That's why I have a daily news wrap-up that's going to start about 9:30. So far, I have almost 50 videos in my playlist of information, news that has dropped today. No nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth. Okay, so go ahead and take a break, grab a cup of coffee and a donut or a sandwich and a soft drink, and meet me back here at 9:30 after I get my playlist updated and get my video all set up, and we'll go to our daily news wrap-up. In the meantime, I do want to thank you for your time. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.